Blood is thicker than water, but apparently, a six-figure salary and a corner office are thicker than both. My own sister destroyed my reputation and framed me for corporate espionage just to steal the promotion I bled for. She thought she had won. She completely forgot I installed the home security cameras. If you have a sibling who was universally labeled the gifted one growing up, you already know the dynamic. Chloe is 2 years older than me, striking, fiercely charismatic, and utterly allergic to hard work. While I spent my weekends in college grinding through internships, Chloe was partying in Cabo, charming professors into granting her extensions, and coasting on a smile that could disarm a firing squad. I never minded playing second fiddle in our personal lives. I was the practical one. I liked the background. And my absolute dedication paid off where it mattered, my career. For 5 grueling years, I poured my soul into Harrison Communications, a top-tier advertising firm in Chicago. I started as a junior copywriter and clawed my way up to lead strategist. The CEO, Arthur Harrison, was a notoriously ruthless man. He fired people for typos. He expected 70-hour work weeks, but he rewarded results, and I was his most reliable earner. By my 5th year, the VP of Creative Direction position opened up. It wasn't just a job, it was a partnership track. A corner office, a massive equity stake, and total creative control. Arthur had practically promised it to me, provided I landed our biggest prospective client of the decade, a telecom giant launching a revolutionary new satellite network. I called it Project Aura. It was my baby. I spent 6 months developing the wireframes, the market positioning, and the psychological hooks. Right around the time Project Aura was entering its final stages, Chloe's life hit a speed bump. She was fired from her PR job at a boutique agency, something about misappropriating company funds for client dinners that turned out to be dates. Broke and facing eviction, she showed up at my apartment with 3 designer suitcases and a tearful apology. I took her in. I let her sleep in my guest room. And because I felt sorry for her, I even pulled some strings with Sarah Jenkins, our head of HR at Harrison Communications, to get Chloe a temporary, low-level freelance consulting gig at the firm. Just data entry and some light social media copy, I told Chloe. Keep your head down, do the work, and get back on your feet. She hugged me, crying. You're an angel, Harper. I swear I won't let you down. Fast forward, 3 weeks. It was a Tuesday, 2 days before the final Project Aura pitch to the telecom executives. I walked into the office at 7 a.m., holding a tray of coffees for my team, feeling invincible. Instead of my team, I found Arthur Harrison standing in the middle of the bullpen, his face the color of thunder. Flanking him was Sarah Jenkins from HR and 2 stern-looking men I didn't recognize. Arthur? I asked, lowering the coffees. What's going on? He didn't yell. That was the terrifying part. His voice was dead and hollow. Step into the boardroom, Harper. Now. My heart hammered against my ribs as I followed them. Inside, Arthur threw a printed dossier onto the mahogany table. It was a press release from our absolute biggest rival agency across town. They were launching a new campaign for a competing tech firm. I looked at the printouts, and the blood drained from my face. It was Project Aura. The exact slogans, the exact color palettes. Even my highly specific, proprietary market research data was heavily featured in their press release. It was a one-to-one copy of my life's work. They filed the trademarks yesterday afternoon, Arthur said, staring daggers into me. A multi-million-dollar account, completely torpedoed. Arthur, I don't understand, I stammered, my hands shaking. How did they get this? This was on an encrypted server. Only I and the senior graphic designers had access. Sarah Jenkins cleared her throat, opening a laptop. Harper, our IT department, ran a trace on the network logs overnight. At 8:45 p.m. last Tuesday, a massive data packet containing the entirety of the Project Aura files was compressed and emailed to a dark web proxy server. From there, it was routed directly to the creative director at the rival agency. Someone hacked us, I pleaded. The IP address used to access our servers and send the files, Sarah continued, her voice devoid of sympathy, was registered to your home network. The login credentials used were yours. The security key fob authentication was yours. The room started spinning. No, that's impossible. I was out to dinner that night. I didn't touch my laptop. We have the logs, Harper, Arthur said coldly. You thought you could sell our proprietary assets to the highest bidder before taking the VP job? Or were you planning to jump ship? I would never do that. I was crying now, panic rising in my throat. You are suspended without pay, pending a full legal investigation, Arthur snapped. Security will escort you to your desk to collect your personal items. Do not speak to your team. Do not attempt to access our servers. We will be in touch with our lawyers. As I was marched through the bullpen by security, feeling the burning stares of 50 colleagues, I saw Chloe. She was standing by the water cooler. She looked shocked, her hand over her mouth. But as I passed by, just for a fraction of a second, her hand dropped. And she smiled. 30 minutes later, I was sitting in my car in the parking garage, sobbing uncontrollably. My phone buzzed. It was a group text from my department. Chloe just asked for an emergency meeting with Arthur. The text from my friend David read. She says she has a backup pitch she's been working on in her free time to save the account. A cold realization washed over me. Chloe hadn't just watched me burn. She had struck the match. The next 48 hours were a waking nightmare. I stayed locked in my bedroom, alternating between bouts of hysterical crying and drafting frantic, unhinged emails to Arthur that I thankfully never sent. Chloe came home late that first night. She knocked softly on my door, adopting a tone of gentle, sisterly concern that made my skin crawl. Harp? Honey, are you okay? She cooed through the wood. I brought takeout. Pad Thai, your favorite. I opened the door, my eyes swollen and red. Did you do this? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Chloe gasped, stepping back, pressing a hand to her chest in a display of theatrical offense. Harper, how could you even ask me that? I am your sister. I know you're stressed, but projecting your mistakes onto me is incredibly unfair. You pitched a backup project to Arthur today, I said, ignoring her performance. David told me. I was trying to save your team's jobs, Chloe fired back, tears welling up in her eyes on command. Arthur was going to fire everyone in your department. I stayed up all night pulling together some old freelance concepts to give him something to show the clients tomorrow. I am trying to fix the mess you made. She was so convincing. For a second, I actually felt a pang of guilt. Maybe I had been hacked. Maybe I was just being paranoid. On Thursday, the news broke. Chloe's makeshift presentation was a massive success. The telecom executives loved her dynamic, fresh approach. Arthur was so impressed that he didn't just give her a permanent position, he gave her the VP of Creative Direction role. My role. The job I had spent 5 years bleeding for, handed to my sister after 3 weeks of consulting. I was officially terminated via a sterile email from HR that Friday morning. They informed me they wouldn't press charges for the IP theft, simply because a public trial would damage the firm's reputation further. I was instructed to sign an NDA and quietly disappear. That night, Chloe came home with 2 bottles of Dom Perignon. We need to celebrate, she announced, kicking off her Louboutin shoes she certainly couldn't afford a month ago. I know things are weird right now, Harp, but I'll cover the rent for the next 6 months. You can take some time off, travel, find yourself. I've got us covered. VP salary, baby. I watched her pop the cork, a sickening knot tightening in my stomach. She was gloating. She was standing in the ashes of my life, drinking champagne. At 2 a.m., while Chloe was passed out drunk in the guest room, my phone vibrated on my nightstand. It was a message on an encrypted messaging app. It was from Ben, the lead systems architect in Harrison's IT department. We had always been friendly. I used to bring him extra pastries when his team had to work late. Ben, Harper. I'm breaking every rule in my contract doing this. But you need to know. The logs were tampered with. I sat bolt upright in bed. My fingers flew across the keyboard. Harper, what do you mean? Ben. I dug deeper into the server firewall logs from last Tuesday. The data packet didn't originate from your laptop. It was triggered from a remote access Trojan. A rat. Someone installed malware on your home network, bypassed your 2-factor authentication, and mirrored your MAC address to make it look like the transfer happened from your machine. Harper, can you prove it to Arthur? Ben, no. The malware wiped its own tracks on the server end. Whoever did this was a pro. They knew exactly how our corporate VPN worked. Chloe isn't smart enough to code a self-executing remote tunnel. She had high-level help. I'm sorry, Harp. If I say anything without hard proof, Arthur will fire me too. I stared at the glowing screen in the dark. High-level help. Ben was right. Chloe couldn't even set up her own Wi-Fi router. She didn't know what a MAC address was. So who helped her? My mind raced back to last Tuesday, the night the files were stolen. I wasn't home. I had been out to dinner with Liam. Liam, my ex-boyfriend. We had dated for 3 years and broke up amicably, or so I thought 6 months ago. He was a senior cybersecurity engineer for a major financial institution. He was brilliant, resentful of my demanding work schedule, and, most importantly, he still had a spare key to my apartment that I had forgotten to ask back. A cold sweat broke out over my entire body. Had Chloe and Liam? I needed proof. I slipped out of bed and crept into the living room. The apartment was pitch black. My eyes darted around, looking for anything, any clue. My gaze landed on the bookshelf in the corner. Sitting unobtrusively next to a stack of design books was the smart home hub I had purchased a year ago. It was supposed to be a high-end security system, but I mostly just used it to check on my cat while I was at the office. Chloe hated the camera. When she moved in, she constantly complained about it watching her. On the Tuesday the files were stolen, the internet had suspiciously gone down in the apartment. Chloe claimed the router was busted, and she had spent the evening reading a book. No Wi-Fi meant the camera's cloud recording feature was offline. But what Chloe didn't know, because she never bothered to read a manual in her life, was that the hub had a hidden, internal 64 gigabytes micro SD card that continuously recorded a rolling 72 hours of audio and video locally, specifically for internet outages. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely pry the plastic casing open. I popped the tiny black square out of the hub, grabbed my laptop, and locked myself in the bathroom. I inserted the SD card, pulled up the directory, and sorted the files by date. I scrolled down to last Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. I clicked play. The video feed was in stark, green night vision. The living room was empty for a few minutes. Then, the front door unlocked. In walked Chloe, and right behind her, laughing softly, was Liam. My stomach plummeted. I watched my sister wrap her arms around my ex-boyfriend's neck and kiss him deeply right in the middle of my living room. "Are you sure she's not coming back?" Liam asked on the video, his voice crystal clear through the microphone. "She's at the partners' dinner," Chloe laughed, pouring herself a glass of wine. "She won't be back until midnight. Go do your nerd magic." I watched in silent horror as Liam walked out of frame toward my home office. 10 minutes later, he returned. "It's done," Liam said, wiping his hands on his jeans. "The payload is deployed. In exactly 10 minutes, the script will trigger. It's going to zip the entire Project Aura directory and blast it to the proxy server I set up for Harrison's rival. It will perfectly mimic her security fob ping." "And there's no way they can trace it to us?" Chloe asked, suddenly looking nervous. Liam smirked. "I'm a ghost, babe. The IP logs will show Harper sitting at her desk, sending the files herself. Her career is dead. Now, about my payment." Chloe smiled wickedly. "Soon as I get the VP signing bonus, your offshore account gets 50 grand. Just like we agreed." 50 grand and you," Liam corrected, pulling her against him. "Careful," Chloe purred. "I'm about to be a very busy executive." I slammed the laptop shut. I couldn't breathe. The bathroom walls felt like they were closing in on me. The betrayal was so absolute, so layered, it felt like I was drowning in acid. My sister, my ex-boyfriend, my career, my life's work, all of it, dismantled in my own living room while they laughed. I sat on the bathroom floor for 2 hours, crying until I physically couldn't shed another tear. But when the tears stopped, something else took their place. It was a cold, sharp, terrifyingly clear sense of purpose. Chloe had stolen my life, and she thought she had gotten away with the perfect crime. She thought I was the weak, practical sister who would just put her head down and accept defeat. I opened the laptop again. I ripped the unedited video file from the SD card and saved it to 3 different secure cloud locations. I wasn't just going to clear my name. I was going to burn Chloe's new life to the ground, and I was going to make sure the entire corporate world brought the matches. For the next 2 weeks, I gave the greatest acting performance of my life. I didn't confront Chloe. I didn't pack my bags. Instead, I played the broken, defeated sister she so desperately needed me to be. I spent my days in sweatpants, applying for mid-level marketing jobs on my laptop, and listening to her complain about the stress of being an executive. You have no idea how exhausting Arthur is, Harp, Chloe sighed one evening, tossing her newly purchased Prada bag onto the kitchen island. He wants quarterly projections by Friday. Like, hello, it's Thursday. I had my assistant draft some buzzwords, but honestly, managing people is a nightmare. I'm sure you'll figure it out, Chloe, I murmured, staring blankly at my screen. You always do. She patted my head like a golden retriever. You're sweet. Oh, by the way, I'm officially moving out next weekend. I found a gorgeous penthouse downtown, and I have a +1 for the Harrison Annual Gala this Saturday. You'll never guess who. Who? I asked, my voice flat. Liam, she smirked, watching my face for a reaction. We bumped into each other at a coffee shop. We just reconnected. I hope you're not mad. I know you guys have history, but he's really grown up. It took every ounce of self-control I possessed not to laugh hysterically. Reconnected at a coffee shop. It was almost insulting how stupid she thought I was. I'm happy for you, I said softly. Really? While Chloe was busy playing corporate queen and redecorating her phantom penthouse, I was quietly moving my chess pieces. I had sent a secure link of the unedited video to Ben from IT. His response had come 3 minutes later. Holy Mother of God. We met in the dimly lit back booth of a diner on the outskirts of the city. Ben looked terrified, nervously stirring his black coffee. This is wire fraud, Harper, Ben whispered, glancing over his shoulder. It's federal cybercrime. Liam hacked a corporate intranet and initiated a proprietary data transfer across state lines, and your sister paid him for it. This isn't just a firing offense, this is prison. I know, I said, sliding a manila folder across the table. Inside were printed screen grabs of Liam's bank accounts, which I easily accessed because the idiot still used his childhood dog's name as his password for everything. I had found the $50,000 wire transfer from an offshore Cayman account routed to him 3 days after Chloe's promotion. I don't just want my job back, Ben, I told him, my voice steady and cold. I want to humiliate them. I want Arthur Harrison to see exactly who he handed my life's work to, and I want the whole board of directors to watch it happen. Ben swallowed hard. The annual gala is this Saturday. The entire executive board will be there, plus the telecom VIPs who bought Chloe's pitch. She's giving the keynote address at 9 p.m. I know, I smiled. And you run the AV booth for the ballroom, don't you? Ben wiped a bead of sweat from his forehead. He looked at the folder, then at me. Arthur was going to fire my whole department because he thought our firewall was weak. Your sister almost cost me my pension. He took a deep breath. Give me the flash drive. I'll patch it directly into the master projector feed. The next step was ensuring the law was waiting in the wings. I took the same flash drive and bank statements to the Chicago Police Department's Cybercrime Division. I sat down with a Detective Miller, a no-nonsense woman who took one look at the video, verified the IP proxy routing Liam had bragged about on tape, and immediately opened a felony grand jury probe. We usually arrest them quietly at their residence, Detective Miller advised, closing her notepad. Detective, I replied evenly. They stole $50 million worth of corporate IP from one of the most powerful firms in the city. If you want a slam-dunk confession, you should be at the Palmer House Hotel ballroom this Saturday at 9 p.m. They'll both be there. Miller smiled a sharp, predatory smile. I'll have plainclothes officers by the exits. Saturday arrived. Chloe spent 4 hours getting ready, floating around the apartment in a custom silk gown that cost more than my first car. How do I look? She asked, twirling in front of the hallway mirror. Like $1,000,000, I said truthfully. Or, more accurately, like 50 grand. I wish you could come, Harp, she pouted, a masterclass in fake sympathy. But it's strictly C-suite and VIPs. You understand. Have a great night, Chloe. Knock 'em dead. As soon as the door clicked shut behind her, I went into my bedroom and unzipped the garment bag I had hidden in the back of my closet. It was a tailored, razor-sharp black tuxedo blazer and matching trousers. I pinned my hair back, put on a dark crimson lipstick, and grabbed my keys. I wasn't on the guest list, but I had spent 5 years running logistics for Harrison Communications. I knew every service elevator and catering back door at the Palmer House Hotel. The ballroom was a sea of crystal chandeliers, flowing champagne, and the city's corporate elite. I slipped in through the catering corridor, standing in the heavy velvet shadows just off the main stage. Through the crowd, I spotted Arthur Harrison, laughing and shaking hands with the telecom executives, and there, holding court at the center table, was Chloe. She was glowing, a diamond necklace sparkling at her throat, her hand resting possessively on Liam's arm. They looked like the ultimate untouchable power couple. At 8:55 p.m., the lights dimmed. The low murmur of 500 people faded into an expectant silence as Arthur took the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, his booming voice echoed over the speakers. Tonight, we celebrate resilience. When this firm faced an unprecedented crisis last month, one remarkable woman stepped up, worked through the night, and delivered a vision that secured our future. Please welcome our new VP of Creative Direction, Chloe. The room erupted into applause. Liam kissed her cheek. Chloe stood, beaming with practiced humility, and glided up the stairs to the stage. "Thank you, Arthur," she began, her voice dripping with faux emotion. "When I stepped into this role, I knew I had big shoes to fill. But I've always believed that success isn't about cutting corners. It's about integrity. To demonstrate that, I'd like to share a short video presentation I put together, a look at the future of Project Aura." High above the ballroom in the AV booth, Ben gave me a subtle thumbs up through the glass. He hit the switch. The massive 60-foot LED screen behind Chloe flashed black. The corporate logo disappeared. Instead, the screen lit up in stark green night vision. The ballroom gasped as a giant, illuminated version of my living room appeared. Chloe froze at the podium. She turned around. On the screen, the front door unlocked. A green-tinted Chloe walked in, followed immediately by Liam. "Are you sure she's not coming back?" Liam's recorded voice boomed through the state-of-the-art surround sound system, echoing off the crystal chandeliers. "She's at the partners' dinner. She won't be back until midnight. Go do your nerd magic." A wave of shocked murmurs rippled through the crowd. At the VIP table, Arthur Harrison's glass of scotch slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. "Turn it off!" Chloe shrieked into the microphone, her voice cracking with pure panic. She frantically waved her arms at the AV booth. "Cut the feed! It's a deep fake! It's a hack!" But Ben had locked the system. The video kept playing. The crowd watched in dead silence as Liam returned to the frame. "It's done. The payload is deployed. In exactly 10 minutes, the script will trigger. It's going to zip the entire Project Aura directory and blast it to the proxy server." People were pulling out their phones, recording the screen. Liam, sitting at the center table, had gone completely white. He abruptly stood up and tried to casually walk toward the side exit. Two men in dark suits stepped out of the shadows. Detective Miller flashed her badge. Liam violently shoved one of the officers and made a sprint for the lobby doors, only to be tackled to the carpet by three plainclothes cops, sending a tray of champagne flutes crashing to the ground. On stage, Chloe was hyperventilating. "Soon as I get the VP signing bonus, your offshore account gets 50 grand, her recorded voice echoed. "Arthur, please," Chloe sobbed, gripping the podium as if it were a life raft. "Harper set me up. This is a lie." I stepped out from behind the velvet curtains and walked directly into the spotlight. The entire ballroom turned to look at me. "Is it?" I asked, my voice ringing out clear and steady without a microphone. "Because the police cyber unit verified the proxy servers this morning, Chloe. They also seized Liam's offshore accounts an hour ago." Chloe stared at me, her perfect makeup ruined by streaks of black mascara. The arrogant sister was gone. In her place was a terrified criminal realizing the trap had just snapped shut. Arthur Harrison marched toward the stage, his face purple with rage. "You stole from me," he snarled at Chloe. "You gave my intellectual property to our rivals. Security, get this absolute parasite out of my sight." It wasn't security who escorted her out. Detective Miller walked up the stage steps, calmly pulled Chloe's hands behind her back, and clicked a pair of steel handcuffs around her wrists. She read the Miranda rights as she walked my sobbing sister down the stairs. The flash of a dozen smartphone cameras lit up their exit. I stood there in the quiet aftermath. Arthur Harrison turned to me, running a trembling hand over his face. The ruthless CEO suddenly looked 10 years older. "Harper," he stammered. I don't know what to say. We thought the evidence against you was irrefutable. I am so deeply sorry. Your job is waiting for you. The VP position. It's yours, with full back pay." I looked around the room, at the board members whispering frantically, at the executives who hadn't even bothered to ask for my side of the story before tossing me to the wolves. No, I said loudly enough for the front tables to hear. Arthur blinked. Excuse me? You didn't trust me, Arthur. You fired your most loyal employee based on circumstantial logs, and then hired a fraud because she smiled at you. I don't want the VP job. Harper, please, name your price. We can double your equity. My price, I interrupted, is my name on the building. I want a full partner position, 15% equity, a public apology issued to the industry press by Monday morning, and complete creative autonomy over the telecom account. If you say no, I am walking out that door, starting my own agency, and taking the entire creative department with me. Arthur stared at me. He looked at the telecom VIPs, who were nodding in absolute approval of my ruthless negotiation. He swallowed his pride and extended his hand. Welcome to the partnership, Harper. I shook it, turned on my heel, and walked out. I slept beautifully that night. The next morning, I watched the news. Chloe was denied bail, facing up to 10 years in federal prison. Blood might be thicker than water, but revenge is crystal clear. That's how my sister traded her freedom for a corner office and ended up with a prison cell instead. Sometimes, the people closest to you are the ones holding the knife. You just have to make sure you're the one holding the camera. If you loved this story of ultimate corporate revenge, hit that like button, share it with someone who loves a crazy plot twist, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more unbelievable real-life drama. See you in the next video.